Here's my baby.
I'm Dana Denha.
And I am Melissa Bondi, and this is Adventures in Parenthood. Throughout this series, we will explore the world of raising kids from newborns to adulthood.
Being a new mom can be stressful. You worry about things you never even thought about before becoming a parent. You wonder if you are doing the right things for your child because you've never done it before. Is the baby dressed warm enough? Are they eating enough? To give parents that extra peace of mind, there are classes available to better prepare you for parenthood. So I really, when I was pregnant, I only took a breastfeeding class, but I definitely feel like I could have taken more classes because I think it's also like I don't know, I feel like sometimes it's hard to justify taking those classes with your partner, or like you don't want to take it alone.
I think to new expecting moms and parents, I think I don't need a class. I can get all that on the internet, or I can Google it, or I have chat groups or friends or siblings that can help me.
Yeah, or even like your mom. But
Sure.
The interesting thing about like when you talk to your mom about stuff, I mean, my mom's in the loop because she's basically been raising kids for like the last like 40 years. Like she never stopped. But like most people's parents are not like that. They,
right.
you know, like your mom raised you and your sister, and then that was it.
Then there's a very large gap.
Yes.
Right.
But I think a lot of times you have like your parent that's like, no, that's not how you lay a baby down at night. You know, they're supposed to be laid down this way, and it's because that's the way they did it. But it's like, yeah, that was like 35 years ago, and a lot of things change over time.
Right.
So.
We've had that conversation too about older adults telling us about our newborns and our young ones and how they did it. Like you said, 35, 40 years ago.
Yeah, and there's a huge difference.
And things have changed, times have progressed, and you know, new things are introduced.
Yeah, I don't need a hand-me-down crib from 1972.
Right. And there is such things as rock and plays and those newer items out on the market for moms that they've never heard of, but we know about it, and it's okay to use, you know, to an extent. But yeah, I definitely would agree with you on that. On that point of view.
Did you end up taking any classes before you had Bryn?
One class. Oh my gosh, I can't remember. We did take a class. It was half a day, and it included some breastfeeding tips, but it wasn't anything that's memorable.
Yeah.
But no, the classes that we're going to talk about today that I saw, I look back now and think, man, I probably could have used some of those back then.
Yeah.
You know, get rid of the stubbornness of
the safety aspect of it, definitely, for sure.
Yeah, there's no reason any expecting parents should not take a safety course. There's no harm in that.
Well, and like I said in the intro, there's things that you just don't think about. Like when you're two adults living in a house together, there's just things you're not ever going to think about, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh crap, the baby keeps trying to get into the cupboard that has all my cleaning supplies.
Right.
Even now, I mean, we have a safety thing on it, but she goes like this. Like it goes, that's the cupboard she wants to be in because it's locked.
Of course that's the one. Okay, well, we've got a lot to talk about today. So joining Dana and I is Bethany Folsom, Health Educator and Safe Kids Coordinator for CS Mott Children's Hospital. And she's here to talk to us about the baby safe classes that are offered at the University of Michigan Health System. Welcome to the show, Bethany.
Thank you for having me.
Like we said, lots to talk about as far as safety, and why don't we talk a little bit, just real briefly, about your background, how you got started, and what's the number one thing people take your classes? Like, what did they really want to learn?
Sure. So I work with the pediatric trauma program. So we have a different part of our program that's all focused around injury prevention. So we look at all sources of injury and try to address those to reduce the amount of preventable injury that happens in the community. When developing Baby Safe, we looked at the injuries that brought in kids the most frequently, so those that cause the most injuries, which is falls, motor vehicle accidents in this category called struck by. So that leads to a lot of the home safety and the baby proofing that we talk about. And then obviously the car seat portion with the motor vehicle accidents. We also look at the injuries that cause the most harm, or those that are the most horrible of injuries to have. So when we look at that, we see non-accidental trauma, Also burns and drownings or near drownings. So a lot of that drives why we talk about safe sleep and also some home safety and some of those topics. So we have a course called Baby Safe that runs once a month, and we address 3 major topics within injury prevention. That's home safety, safe sleep, and then car seat safety as well. The thing that brings people in most is that we offer a portion at the end that's a provider DVD-led CPR course. So it's not one that certifies people in CPR, but it tells people how to do CPR on an infant and also choking for infants also.
Well, and I think that's like a big one when you're pregnant, where you feel like, I need to know this.
Sure.
So I'm sure that's why a lot of people are coming in and taking the class from you.
And a lot of people want their spouse to take it, so they bring them along too.
Yeah.
So why don't we talk a little bit then first about the home safety, because that's, when I saw that, I'm like, wow, like I said, I could have probably used that.
Sure.
I'm learning as we go, as we are. Both are probably learning as we go.
Isn't that parenting, though, a hands-on learning from start to finish, and you're never truly finished, so it's always.
Right. So what is it, what are some top tips that you can give for the home?
Sure. A lot of home safety and baby proofing, as you will, is very individualized. We all have different homes. We have different amounts of levels in our homes. Some people have a ranch home. Some people have 3 stories. Some people have rooms that they don't even go into. So a lot of it is just individualized based on your home and where you spend time. I have a 3-year-old at home, and when we thought about baby proofing, we really took some time to look at our house, especially when we first got home with her. And I found that I never ever took her downstairs. I didn't need to baby proof the basement because we never went down there. So I think baby proofing and home safety looks like this big, huge task, but when you can truly look at it and specify which rooms you really truly need to baby proof or use safety products in, then it becomes a lot more manageable.
I think the one thing that I really struggled with when I was baby proofing the house is the stairs and the gate situation.
Sure.
So we have a house that has a lot of wood stairs to go up. So it was like, what kind of gate do I buy for the top of the stairs? And then what kind of gate do I buy for the bottom landing part?
Sure.
That was like a huge struggle for me.
And I think that's a lot of, one of the things that a lot of people don't understand is you go into any of the stores and you see all of these products and you think they're all going to work for your needs. But then you look closer and you see that there's different types. So in terms of baby gates, there are some that are tension mounted, so like a tension rod that you use for a shower curtain.
Yep.
So something that will hold a gate up and be fine. But then you also have those that you can anchor in, that you can screw into a banister or the wall, and those are more secure. So if you think about the placement, if you are on a main level and you're protecting your child from going down the stairs, that tension rod gate isn't as strong. So you get to get a baby that's heading towards that 9-month stage where they want to start pulling up and pull themselves up onto things. Is the tension of that gate going to be strong enough to withhold the weight of your child? So at the top of the stairs and protecting from going down, we recommend those anchor gates to make sure that that is not going to fall over. At the bottom, people still do choose to anchor in gates, but the tension rod would be more appropriate at the bottom where there's not a far distance to fall.
But that was the other problem I had, was it was a banister to wall. So like not all of those tension gates are going to work necessarily. So I ended up getting like one where it's like a fabric gate that like clips around the banister and mounts to the side of the wall, which was much more expensive than
Right. Definitely different price points for each of those products also.
So that was like, that I think was probably the biggest struggle. It was like, I don't want her to go up these stairs because I'm worried about her getting back down the stairs, but what am I going to use?
Sure. Well, and in that case, too, we talk about making sure that you're supervising your kids. Like, we all think we can watch our kids from across the room, but how much can they get in? You guys understand how fast those little kids are and how fast they can get into compromised situations. So we encourage parents not to be helicopter parents and micromanage everything they do, but be within an arm's length where you can protect your child from those things or catch them before they get all the way up the stairs or down the stairs. So really encouraging parents to have that active supervision as well.
And I don't know if either of you saw it, but I did see a video not too long ago about this is kind of switching over to the blinds portion of it, with the blinds and the window treatment, where the string was hanging down, and I saw this video online, a viral video that went out, and a little girl was choking, and the mom was in the room. So with that said, we did go through and we put up all of the cords up for every single window in our house. We're in a ranch.
Sure.
So in every single one we did that. Not because of the video, we knew ahead of time, but that just reinforced, yeah, we definitely need to do that.
Well, and I think kids have this weird thing where they want to wrap things around their neck.
Yeah, put things around their neck.
Sure. With injury prevention as a whole, and especially in Baby Safe, I always explain to parents that I don't want to scare you into compliance, but I do give situations and scenarios of patients that have come in, because things do happen, accidents happen, and even though they sound crazy, we're all vulnerable. They can all happen in the blink of an eye, especially with those blinds. So there are a lot of products that you can use, but you have to be able to think ahead of those. So there's different cord wind-ups that you can get those window treatment cords out of the way. But there's also some ways of rethinking what you're doing. Like if you're diligent enough to always put that cord up and you feel comfortable in your diligence, then you might not need the product. But for someone like me that I don't trust myself all the time, then I want those products to make sure that they're out of sight, out of reach, and out of mind.
Okay.
Well, you mentioned TVs too. So like, is that a big problem, or if you're not mounting your TV that, or anchoring it?
Sure. We think back in the day, we used to have those big tube TVs that were like, I could barely lift. Right?
Yeah,
so nice.
So it's not really going to fall over
nice
on you.
and stable. And now we're all moving to those flat screens that, and if you push it wiggles. So we recommend mounting them, so either like putting them up on the wall or using a strap to anchor them to the wall, so that there's no risk to your TV or to your baby. That, yeah, we're still going to teach them not to touch the TV, but there's no risk of that TV falling over onto the child.
For Baby Safe, for the Baby Safe, do you meet with parents who have what's the age range of the kids that the parents are coming?
Sure. For Baby Safe, it's an expecting parent class.
Okay.
But we've had some parents who either delivered super early and they're still registered for class and still came. And there have been some people that have kids under a year that have attended class also.
Okay. Do you teach or give advice on parents like us who have toddlers? As far as, do these safe tips that you have that you give, do those carry on over? I know some of them do, but
sure. Our focus is that or from newborn to 1 year. So as they're becoming more and more mobile, so definitely some of those principles still apply. And I do talk about, later on when they're even more mobile and what they can get into, and especially with some of the special topics like what we can dive deeper into. It highlights a need for classes for toddlers and for kids who are becoming more and more mobile. Like in terms of like dog bite prevention and pets at the home, a lot of the stressor and the things that cause problems and can promote dog bites is a child who hadn't been mobile and the dog became accustomed to a baby lying there or sitting there, and now suddenly they're moving and they're taking my toys and they're touching my food, and that can be a real stressor for dogs. So there is a lot more considerations in home safety that can be taught for kids who are more and more mobile.
Okay. Yeah, I've got a toddler that can now put her hand up on our island. So we just went through, we just left a knife up there. Like, you got to get the knife off. She can reach, So now I'm in that stage.
Well, there's that, and then there's also, like, what if you set a cup of coffee onto a piece of paper that's on your counter? So maybe they can't reach that knife or that cup of coffee, but they can pull that paper, and then they're pulling something down onto them.
Yes.
Well, we're going to delve a little bit deeper into this, and right now we're going to take a short break, and we will be back with more from Bethany. We're back with Bethany Folsom, health educator and safe kids coordinator for CS Mott Children's Hospital. Welcome back, Bethany.
Thank you.
So we were talking about keeping your home safe before the break. The one thing that you can't really have control over is keeping other people's homes safe.
Right. Well, when you have a new baby, you want to show them off, you want to take them places. Of course, you want to foster that relationship with grandparents and aunts and uncles. But as diligently as we baby-proof our own homes, we know our homes, we know, I know what penny I drop what place, and I make sure I pick that up. Even though I'm so diligent in baby-proofing my house, I can't vouch for the thoroughness that other people look at their home. People have different perceptions of what is safe, of what baby-proof truly means, and it might not always be the same as you. No offense to grandparents or in-laws or anyone like that, but it's almost like when you go to those houses, you're on heightened awareness because you don't know the stressors. As you're in your own house, you get to know the issues, the ins and outs of your house, where your child likes to go and where they hang out. And suddenly they're in a new house and it's free reign and there's all these new rooms and places and trinkets and things that you in your house you have gotten rid of. Candles, the outlets might not be covered. So there's a lot more possible dangerous situations and compromising situations that your child can get into in those new and exciting places.
Right now, we're in the situation where my daughter is introduced to the piggy bank and the coins and putting them in the slots and taking them out and putting in. And just the other day, and I thought, oh, this is great, this is perfect, keeps her busy, putting all the money in. She put one in her mouth. Now, it didn't get in, I caught it, I was there, I saw it, but I'm like, we're still putting stuff in her mouth. Okay, so, yep, gotta watch it. We're not past that.
Oh, and that never ends. We introduced Legos, and I saw my daughter, take little pieces and try to bite them apart. Like, oh no.
Like candy?
So yeah, it never ends. It never stops.
Right. And so to your point of visiting others, grandparents, family, friends, visiting their homes, yes, I'm just thinking in my head about the heightened awareness is absolute. And the same thing, just because you're still going to be a helicopter parent, even more so at someone else's house. You may not be at your own. You may, like you said, you're comfortable, you're good. But at someone else's, I think it's okay to be like that.
Sure.
Because it's safety first.
And you also don't want your child to break the antique plate that's sitting on the counter or anything like that. So it's a dual. Like, I want to keep that house safe, but I also, more importantly, want to keep my baby safe.
Yeah.
So let's talk about safe sleep practices, because that's a pretty big one that I'm sure you talk to a lot of parents about in the baby safe classes.
Sure. We take the stance, let me back up. There's a lot of different groups that are very passionate about safe sleep and have different perspectives and opinions on what safe truly means. For us in the injury prevention program, we take the statement by the AAP, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and we go by their standards, which they have it with the acronym of ABC, so that your baby always sleeps alone, like no pillows, no stuffed animals, no blankets, no people, no pets, no anything. Your car seat and your crib are supposed to be the most boring things out there. And then second is the B, and that's you always lay your child on their back. So even when they get to the point where they can roll, you're still putting them on their back initially to go to sleep. And then lastly is the C, where your baby's in a crib or a bassinet or a pack and play, somewhere that has a firm flat surface with a tight fitting sheet on top of it. So I say ABCs, alone, on your back, and in a crib.
So if you are using a pack and play, you should be buying the pack and play sheet and not like putting your crib sheet and just trying to make it as tight as you can.
Yeah, they do sell like play yard or pack and play sheets that will fit appropriately and fit tightly and snugly.
Okay. At what age, or do you have a recommendation as far as introducing, your baby's still in a crib, introducing a pillow or a blanket? Because I went back and forth with I did some research, asking mom friends, going to the Google and kind of deciding what was a good time for me to do this.
I think definitely past a year of age, and it's a good question to ask your pediatrician and get their input on. A lot of daycare settings ask that you bring a blanket for your child. So that's when we started introducing the blanket, was when she needed one for daycare to have that sense of home. But that wasn't until she was past a year of age. Okay. So they say about a year is when they can start adding things, but not sooner than that.
I will say I did ask my pediatrician about the pillow situation. I didn't give up my daughter a blanket until recently because she was in a sleep sack sort of thing where she didn't need a blanket. But my doctor said a year and a half with the pillow, because she felt like at a year and a half they're strong enough to lift themselves up if they needed to. So I waited until that point because I'm like, I don't need to push it. She doesn't sleep with a pillow, so she doesn't know what it's like to sleep with a pillow.
They don't know any different, right?
Yeah.
Right. And you mentioned the sleep sack, and those are great alternatives to keep your baby warm versus adding a blanket or something that could be dangerous to that crib. So there's a bunch of different sleep sacks or wearable blankets that have swaddle options with Velcro that's nice and secure, so it doesn't become a choking or suffocation risk. Or blankets that they can wear until they're old, essentially. So they grow in different sizes and different weights. So the ones we had like a t-shirt material, and we had a fleece material. So depending on the season, she would be warm enough no matter what.
Well, even, I mean, my daughter's a year and a half. She's covered up sometimes in bed. It's not like they even really know how to cover themselves up with a blanket at that age.
Even with my daughter at 3, there's sometimes I go in and the blanket's thrown across the room, and she knows no different.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Well, and the other thing that we were talking about before the show is having like bumpers on your crib, and you're saying no bumper is better than like even the mesh ones.
Right. So the AAP looked at this statement. The problem was proposed, so these breathable bumpers. So the AAP looked at them and said even though they pass like safety standards or they're considered breathable, they looked at the reason why people would put them into the crib. So they said the reason why people have them is to prevent their baby from hitting their head on the side of the crib. But they looked at the force that a baby would have to generate in order to cause damage and said that that's not possible. So they said if the bumper isn't truly serving a purpose, then why would you have the risk in your crib? So they go back to the baby is alone, no products, no nothing empty crib.
I can tell you, I put the crib bumper on my registry. I received it as a gift. I never used it. It's still sitting in the closet because once we got ready to set up the nursery, I got so many conflicting, oh, I can't believe you got that, oh, you need that. I got so many conflicting, it was, I say that from, fellow friends and moms, who told me to get it and not get it. And I think Dana brought up the point about it being more of a decorative standpoint.
Sure.
People want, the cute little.
Well, all the stores sell the sets, like the
and it comes with
the
a
ruffle, the bumper, the quilt,
a comforter.
I mean, you don't need any of those things.
Yeah. So mine's still sitting up there. I never returned it because I was going to use it. My husband said absolutely not. I said we can. He said no, and it's still sitting there. But it's a good. I'm glad you clarified that for us because. There was a bone of contention a little bit for a lot of moms or parents.
And with that, you bring up a good point where you had some people say no and some people say yes. And I think as new moms, there are so many mom groups out there, so many blogs, so many different places you can go for information. But what I warn parents about is make sure that you research those options, research what people are telling you to do. There's a lot of products out there that people swear by, but they're not safe. Like they could actually cause danger. But because they happen to work for this mom, she's now going to say, this is what you need. I'm going to buy it for you for your baby shower. But make sure you do your research. Make sure you look at articles or evidence-based practice and make sure that you're making the right decisions for your baby, not just going off of what someone else told you.
Well, and I do want to mention while we're talking about safe sleep, that we were both guilty of this, that we let our baby sleep in a rock and play, and that is not the purpose of a rock and play. And I think that's something that a ton of parents do. And I think that the information isn't out there enough that they're not supposed to be sleeping in that.
Right. There's a couple problems. So if you go back to the AAP standards, they say a firm, flat mattress, and that's not flat, and it's not firm. Right. But think about the baby's perspective. That's a nice, comfy place to be.
Like a hammock.
I'm relaxed. I'm rocking. It is comfortable.
Upright a little bit.
But they say a lot of times the babies are getting neck problems, or that they are in this position where they're not able to move their heads and move around like they should. A rock and play is great for awake time, like if you are supervising and you just need to put the baby down somewhere comparable to a swing or a bouncy chair or something like that, but it's not a safe sleep place. Now they're finding that a lot of people are having a hard time transitioning once that baby is outgrowing that rock and play, transitioning to that firm, flat surface.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of struggles with parents hitting that, 8-9 months where they do need to move out of that rock and play and now get to that firm, flat surface.
That was such a concern for us, and I'm like, I know that's going to happen. It didn't. We were fortunate it did not happen when we got her in the crib, but that was a big one.
What are your thoughts about the co-sleepers that go on the side of the bed, not the ones that are like in between you, but like the one that, it's almost like a pack and play, but it's...
Right. We're from the injury prevention standpoint, we're definitely against bed sharing. So we say room sharing, having the baby in the room with you is great, but not in bringing the baby into bed with you, even though there are products that are supposedly keeping you separate from your baby. With the co-sleepers against the side of the bed, it's better than bringing in the bed, but the best is to be beside your bed but with a distance apart. Think about as you toss and turn at night and you're throwing your pillows and you're throwing your blankets or you're throwing your arm. If you have no separation between you and that baby, your arm can cause problems. That blanket, the pillow, anything that is part of that bed can cause a problem. So better than bringing them into bed, but best practice would be in a bassinet a couple feet away from the bed or across the room or somewhere where you can't harm that baby while you're sleeping.
Bethany, real quick, where can people find your classes if they were looking to register?
Sure. I think I know our number off the top of our head.
Your website.
Sure. We have pediatrictrauma.org.
And we actually have your number on our lower
Yeah, don't worry about your phone number.
I was trying to remember it. I'd probably mess it up if I tried to say it, but it'll be flashed on the screen. So the number that is flashed is our injury prevention number. So you can call with any questions about car seat, safe sleep, any questions that you have about protecting your baby and keeping your baby safe. We'll be able to answer those questions.
Well, and we didn't get to the period of purple crying, is that what it's called? Which I actually did want to talk about, and I'm going to mention real quick that I think that a lot of people, especially older people, try to tell you that your baby has colic and it's like this big thing and you need to take him to the doctor and get medicine and it's crazy. And but I did like that when I was reading your information that you were like, this is something that every baby goes through, regardless of how bad it is for the baby. It's dependent on the baby itself. But.
Sure. There was a gentleman who researched infant crying for the last 20 years, a long time, and just found that babies cry. We all know that sometimes it's because they're hungry or they're wet or they're telling you they need something, but sometimes babies just cry. We use the period of purple crying because it relates to our non-accidental trauma, because the crying can be so frustrating. You're tired already. If you're exhausted, you just want your baby to be calm and sweet and fall asleep in your arms, but they're crying. So people get frustrated, and when you frustrate, you can shake that baby. So we talk about knowing about the period of purple crying and knowing that babies are going to cry, making sure that you have a plan, that you have people that can support you that also understand that babies cry.
Do you feel like that, do you think, I mean, I hate this, Sabi, we have to wrap up, but do you think that's a separate show we could talk about?
Sure. I think we can have some of our people from our like child abuse group that could come and talk about that period of purple crying.
That'd be amazing, because like she said, it's all babies cry, we all go through it, we all deal with it, so I absolutely feel like that could probably be a whole entire show.
Oh yeah, we could talk forever about that.
Thank you so much.
Sure, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. If you have an idea for parenting, a show topic, or a guest, you can talk to us on Twitter and Facebook at #CTN Ann Arbor.
For more on programming and services available at CTN, visit a2gov.org/watchctn. Thanks for joining us on this adventure in parenthood.